Today I will talk about another PC build, but this time it's for an $800 budget. So if your budget is between, let's say, $750 to $900, this video is going to be for you, because at the end I will explain on how to make this PC cheaper and also how to make it more expensive in case you wanna make your performance better or you wanna save some money. Now I know that I've been making a bunch of PC build videos, but this is mainly because the prices keep changing every day on the market. That's why I have to keep updating these videos, because maybe a PC build that was $800 last month, right now it's $900, or maybe it's even cheaper. So that's why I keep doing these videos. You will have all the links to these components down below in the description, and you will have a bunch of Prebuilt PCs as well for every single budget in case you want to buy a Prebuilt PC instead of a PC build. But if that's the case, I recommend you watching my video about the best Prebuilt PCs of the month. I will leave it in the top right of the screen. With that being said, let's start. So the first thing that I will talk about is the CPU. I picked the i5-12400F. Yes, I know that I used to pick the Ryzen 5 5600 because it was at the same price and then the motherboard is cheaper, but right now the 5600 it's about $10 to $20 more expensive, so there is almost no price difference between the 5600 and the 12400F combining with the motherboard. With that being said, it's up to you if you want to go with Intel or AMD. Both are going to perform really similar. I chose Intel for this particular build, but you can go with AMD without any issues. Then for the motherboard, I picked the MSI Pro B660A DDR4 ATX motherboard. I didn't go with DDR5, especially at this budget. You definitely don't need it, and we don't see the advantage of DDR5 just yet. And with that being said, it's much more expensive, so I do not recommend DDR5 for now unless it's a really high-end gaming desktop. Then for the memory kit, I picked the Silicon Power Gaming 16 gigs of RAM 2x8, of course, DDR4 3200MHz CL16 memory. This is all that you're going to need. You definitely don't need 3600 at CL16 memory, like I said before, unless it's a really high-end gaming PC. Then for the storage, I went with the TEAMGROUP 512 gigs of M.2 SSD. Now going with 1TB, I know it's much better, but we have to save some money for the graphics card if we want to have the best performance, because maybe you can get for $800 a terabyte of SSD and maybe a better case that I will talk about in a second. But then if you have $800 to spend, you won't be able to get the best graphics card that you can get for the price, and at the end it's much cheaper upgrading the SSD, or let's say the case, than the graphics card, because if you want to upgrade the GPU, you will have to spend at least $340, which is a lot of money. But on the other hand, if you want to upgrade the storage, you're looking to spend about $50 extra for an extra terabyte of SSD. Then for the GPU and the most important part for a gaming PC, I went with the MSI RADEON RX 6650 XT. This one has 8 gigs of VRAM and it's great even for 1440p gaming. So you're looking at a gaming desktop for $800. That's actually excellent for 1080p gaming. There's no game that you won't be able to run, and on top of that, you get a great 1440p experience. So let's say you have a 1080p monitor right now, but maybe down the line you consider 1440p, or even if you have a 1440p monitor right now, this graphics card is going to be great. It's around $360, but you get a $20 discount after the rebate. But if you don't want to buy it from Newegg and you want to buy it from Amazon, that's totally understandable. It's going to be a little bit more expensive. It's going to cost you around $360 without the $20 discount. Then for the case, I picked the COUGAR MX410 mesh with RGB fans. Like this case says, it has a front mesh panel, so overall it's a great case for the airflow. You won't have any issues with it, and CPU and GPU temps are going to be just fine. Of course, if you want better CPU temps, you can upgrade the CPU cooler. I decided to leave the Intel stock CPU cooler. It's going to work just fine, although if you want a more quiet experience and better CPU temps, consider getting an aftermarket cooler. And last but not least, the power supply, I went with the EVGA VR 700W 80 plus bronze power supply, mainly because it's $35. You get a great power supply and it's also pretty good for future upgrades. So let's say you want to upgrade the GPU or the CPU, you won't have any issues with changing the power supply because you won't need to do it, unless let's say you want to put like the next 4090. In that case, you will need to upgrade the power supply. But let's be honest here, if you're looking for an $800 PC, I highly doubt that you want to buy the 4090. With that being said, the total price for this PC after the promo discounts and the mail-in rebates, it's $803. I know it's $3 over budget, but believe me, this price is excellent for this type of gaming desktop. Like I said before, 1440p, no problem. Of course, 1080p, more than enough. You can search on YouTube the benchmarks for the 1650 XT and the i5-12400F in different games for you to see how this PC exactly performs for gaming on your favorite game. Now, like I said at the beginning, I will talk about on how to make this PC more expensive and also how to make it cheaper. So if you have an extra $100, you wanna upgrade the storage with the Western Digital Blue SN570. This one it's a 1TB M.2 drive, definitely more than enough for gaming. You don't need Gen 4 SSD and it's really expensive, so you won't need it on this gaming desktop. Then I recommend you switching the case to the LANCOOL 215 ATX mid tower case. This one has great airflow and it's better looking than the last one, so the aesthetics overall and the airflow is going to be better. And finally, I recommend you getting the ID Cooling SE214 XT. This one will be enough for the i5-12400F, and you're going to have not only a more quiet experience, but you will also have better CPU temps and more RGB, so the aesthetics overall for this PC are going to be better. Now, if you have less money to spend, for $770 total, I recommend you downgrading from the i5-12400F to the i3-12100F. It's not going to bottleneck the GPU, the 6650 XT. The performance is still going to be great, but for 1440p, I recommend you going for the i5-12400F, and also for multitasking, streaming, and doing a bunch of other tasks, the i5-12400F is recommended. However, if you're just for 1080p gaming, the i3-12100F is going to be more than enough, and believe me that the performance is still going to be great and you end up saving some money, which is always good. Now, if you even have less money, then yes, I recommend you downgrading the GPU to the RX 6600 XT, and the total price for the gaming desktop is going to be $730. Don't worry, your performance is still going to be great. The 6600 XT is still really good for 1080p. I would actually say it's one of the best GPUs for 1080p, and you can run some 1440p gaming, but remember that the i3-12100F is not super recommended for 1440p gaming. However, it's not going to be a terrible experience. And if you want to get an NVIDIA graphics card, I recommend you going for the 3060 Ti, but it's going to cost you more money, so it really depends if you can spend the extra money or not. I personally wouldn't do it, but it's up to you if you want to get the advantage of DLSS and ray tracing in your gaming experience. So that was the whole video. If you found it helpful, leave a like and subscribe, but most importantly, hit that bell button so you get notified when I upload this type of content, which I do from 3 to 5 times a week. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.